was almost a hostage. Okay, so it didn't happen and you're being dramatic. Okay, Tana Mojo, let's go. What's the story time? I was walking down the street when I saw a rusty nail in the road. I picked it up and threw it into an empty house's yard. I know, it's not helpful. Girl, a kid gonna come running by, step on it and get tetanus. It's your fault. Just leave it in the road. Or throw it in someone's trash can, save the planet, whatever. After I threw the nail, a man came out of what I thought was an empty house and shouted to me. I freaked out, thinking it was about the nail, and kept walking towards my house. The guy didn't sound mad, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. He started following me to the street and gesturing me to come over, but my gut told me to keep walking. I get home and see from my house that the empty house I just passed is now surrounded by cops. At this point, I still think it's about the nail. Girl, you're not gonna get arrested for throwing a rusty nail. After a while, it gets worse and men in full gear show up. I found out later that the house was indeed empty and the men inside were known criminals. And I very much almost ended up a hostage. That is just why you don't go walking alone ever, especially at night, and throwing rusty nails into someone's lawn. It may look empty, but dang, I had an apartment with no furniture for over a year. It looked empty. Someone might still live there. Don't be judgy. Years ago, early 90s, okay, so you're old, my boyfriend was driving me home and we saw a man lying on the ground in the strangest position. Who cares? Keep driving, not your problem. Kneeling with his head on the ground and bent at a sharp angle so that he faced the street. It was 2 a.m. and the man was covered in sweat with his eyes open. Weird. We pulled over and I hopped out to check on the guy. Girl. That is why you are going to die first in the horror movie. She's the girl in Scream, having a whole conversation with the serial killer, playing trivia with the guy, acting like she's gonna get out of this alive. No, mind your business, call the cops. His eyes were wide open and he seemed like his face wasn't moving, but it really felt like he was pleading for help. No, you're just crazy. He didn't respond at all when I called out to him. No blinking, glassy eyes. I reached out to touch him and he was ice cold. I'm sure he wasn't breathing. Okay, so he was dead. This was before cell phones. What? They didn't have cell phones in the 90s? At least a BlackBerry or something? So I hopped back in the car and we sped back to my house to call 911. 10 minutes later, the police called back to ask for the cross streets again. Apparently they arrived at the corner and there was nothing there. Someone went back for the dead body that they did not hide very well, and you confirmed they needed a better hiding spot. I verified it was the right spot and they said they would call back if they need more information. That was the last they ever heard of it. This is all kinds of wrong. Guys, do not go checking on someone in a weird position in the middle of the night on the side of the road. That is how you die. He's biting daddy. This is either going to be really creepy or kinky. It's like, oh, I saw mommy kissing Santa Claus. My 3-year-old, who is normally very happy, was extremely concerned the other day. He kept looking around the room talking about the rhino, and who knows what a 3-year-old might refer to as a rhino, because they mix up a lot of weird things. This went on for about 20 minutes. He was very concerned and looking around the entire time. So we get to a point where he says the rhino is moving. My wife asks where the rhino is. He's coming to daddy. Yeah, I'm daddy, and I puckered my cheeks really quick when he said that. Got a little worried. Fast forward about 4 days, last night, he starts talking about the ghost, and my daughter asked my son, where is the ghost? My son says, he's biting daddy. This rhino/ghost really likes daddy. Road rage. Me. I was going down an old country highway in Georgia on my motorcycle when I spotted an ambulance coming the opposite way. Pulled over, and a pickup truck pulled over behind me. In my rearview mirror, I see the passenger get out with a baseball bat and start hustling my way. Bruh, what is your problem? Good thing there's an ambulance. I didn't even look, just dropped into gear and hauled butt. Seriously, don't ask questions. Don't be like, whoa, what are you doing? Who are you? What's going on? Get out of there. Ask questions later. What followed was the most harrowing experience I've had in my life, as this pickup truck proceeds to chase me for about 20 minutes. I'm unfamiliar with the area. My bike was not meant for going fast around turns, so I've got no room for error, and it's all I can do to stay out in front of these guys. I'm blowing through intersections trying to get some distance and come up with a plan, but they are really trying to get to me. I finally managed to get pointed towards the highway and into the cover of some other cars, but then traffic stops on a bridge. The truck is 3 cars behind me, and I'm thinking if I can just get out to the highway, I'm probably home free, because his motorcycle can go pretty fast in a straight line. But, there's always a but, in my mirror, I see the passenger snaking through the cars on the bridge. So I lane split, which is when, motorcycles drive in between cars on the white line. It's legal some places like California, but in Georgia, it's illegal. So he lane splits and gets away from the guys. Never went back to that town. Good idea. As far as I know, it was an unprovoked attack of the hillbilly variety. This guy has no idea why these guys tried to attack him. Literally, totally unprovoked. They just came up and said, "Ooh, biker, let's get him." I know some people do hate motorcycles because lane splitting is dangerous. That's why it's not always legal. You can very easily hit a car like that, and they can be kind of loud. So I get why some people hate them, but that does not give you the excuse to go just randomly attack a biker. So, if you notice a motorcycle, just pay attention, make sure you don't hit them because they will probably lane split. And just try to give them some extra room. Make it safer for everybody. 3 a.m. walk. Nothing in this sentence sounds like a good idea. Anything at 3 a.m. and walking. And they should never be put together. I am a fairly small guy. I stand at around 5'5", and the most I've ever weighed was around 150. Lucky. About 6 or 7 years ago, I didn't have my license, but a good buddy of mine wanted to hang out. He too didn't have a license, so we both decide to walk towards one another and meet in the middle. But we'd both be walking 5 miles. Bruh, y'all better be best friends. I wouldn't do that for nobody. If that makes me a bad friend, I don't care, but I'm not walking 5 miles just to get a milkshake with you. It was 3 a.m. on a cold winter night, and I was wearing a black jacket with my hood up. About 2 miles into my hike along the main road, a car pulled into a parking spot of a home I was passing, just a few feet behind me. He wasn't entirely in the driveway, almost half hanging out into the street. I half expected it was just a kind stranger wanting to give me a ride, but I wasn't about to take any rides from anybody. Guys, seriously, life lesson here. Do not pick up hitchhikers and never try to hitchhike. Cause either way, these are complete strangers and you have no idea what their intentions are. There are so many stories about hitchhikers and people picking them up where someone gets kidnapped and murdered. It is just never a good idea for either person. So I kept pacing forward and ignored the car behind me, expecting them to roll down the window and shout at me, but it never happened. The car just sat there. It was still running, but it was so dark inside to the point that I could only barely make out the figure of a large man. I don't typically get frightened by much, but something in the air made me tense up and my heart kind of dropped to my stomach. I stopped and turned to look at the car. That can actually kind of help. If you think someone's following you or staring at you a little too long, look at them and make sure they know that you know they're there, because sometimes that can actually scare off an attacker. They might be trying to sneak up on you, but if they know that they've already been caught, it might make them back off. I had a feeling that the person driving was watching me intently. The figure in the car was definitely facing me. I could see the reflection from his dash bouncing off of his eyes. I stared back. I figured he was about to yell at me, but he just sat quietly in a strangely menacing way that I've only ever seen in scenes in movies. I kind of did a wave to let him know I saw him and I was waiting for something in return. And he didn't budge, he just stared. So, just kept walking, slightly brisker. That means quicker. After just a few moments, I could hear the car slowly roll in reverse, so I turned to face it but kept pacing backwards. The car kept creeping slowly. This is so weird. I wonder if his friend is going through the same thing. I pulled down my hood and stood still again, waiting for him to pass me. No. If anything, run in the other direction because it's going to take a few seconds for the car to turn around and go after you. Instead, the man slowed to a stop beside me. The passenger side window rolled down and the man and I met eyes. No words were exchanged, and before I could even let out a hello, the man grimaced and accelerated away at a decent pace, almost as if he was disappointed by what he had seen. I guarantee this man was looking for someone to kidnap, probably a girl. You had your hood on so he couldn't tell, and he was waiting until he could make out a female. But then he saw you were just some teenage boy and he was like, ugh, I don't like little boys. And then he booked it out of there. Not funny, this could have been a very serious situation, but at least he thought you were too ugly to kidnap. That's kind of a compliment. We were living with my brother-in-law and his 2 teens when I was pregnant. My husband worked 7 to 6 and my brother-in-law worked offshore for 14 days at a time. While he was at work, his kids stayed with their grandmother. Nice house, but it had a weird vibe. Chalked it up to pregnancy hormones and I thought I was just paranoid. One day, home alone, I was taking a shower and felt someone staring at me. Stuck my head out and listened, couldn't hear anything, so I kept showering. A while later, I heard the back door shut and she went to check it and the door was still locked. No one there. Creepy. I told my husband about it and he shrugged it off. We locked down, went to bed. I don't know how long I'd been asleep, but I woke up to the blankets being yanked off the bed and my husband flipping on every light in the house. Something happened to him. He threw open every door, cabinet, even the pantry, closet, while holding his gun. I asked what was going on and he swore he heard boots thumping through the house and someone talking. Everything was still locked and it's not a big house. Nobody was there except for us. Yo, this is like that creepy movie, The Boy, about the doll. Spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. Skip about 10 seconds. But this is like the dude who's living in the walls. And he just sneaks around. No one knows where he is. Okay, spoiler alert over. One night, a while later, my niece came into our room. Her dad worked over and we had them for a few days. And she asked to sleep in bed with us. Now this girl wasn't scared of anything and is 14 at the time. Sat up, told my husband to scoot over and patted my pillow. Aww. That's when I noticed her 16-year-old brother curled up under a blanket on the floor beside me. Where'd you come from? Why are you both in our room at 2 a.m? They didn't want to answer at first, but explained that something in my niece's room laughs at night. Heck no. This ghost a joker? I hated that room when we moved in, and every time I was in there, got out as quickly as I could. I asked my nephew why he was on the floor, and he said she came into my room on the cot to sleep, but something started knocking on the door, and we came down here as soon as it stopped. Again, husband flipped on every light, looked in every nook and cranny, nobody. Eventually we moved out, and the kids decided to live with their grandma full time. My husband said he heard a man laughing in my niece's room, but there was no one there when he turned on the lights. Scared the crap out of him, of course. Y'all got too many dang problems. This ghost probably used to live there. It's probably some mischievous little boy. And he's like, I'm gonna get this family out of my house. And now he's just like, it worked, I got my room back. The evil twin. Yay, love this. It's about to get interesting. New Year's Day 1995. Why is everyone here old? I was in the middle of college. A bunch of my friends came down to visit. And we all had a big drinking night, and the next day we were all pretty hungover and went out to get some breakfast. 2 of these friends were twin brothers. One of them we hung out with all the time, super chill. The other we just met for the first time. That's trippy. He was pretty normal the night before, joining in on the fun, but on this day we were at a local basketball court shooting hoops. And his twin brother kept following me around all over the place with the creepiest grin I'd ever seen in my life. Staring right into the nether regions of my soul the whole time. That sounds like a Minecraft word. I'd back away and join the group again, and he'd keep following me around. When we were walking back to the apartment, it was just me and him walking down the sidewalk behind the group. And he moved over in front of me, stared at me with that creepy look again, and fell down to his knees as if to worship me or something. I didn't know what to do. Hey buddy, you alright? We're heading back now, right? And so on. He wouldn't say anything. He'd just be there on his knees, looking up at me with a clenched face and squinted eyes, as if he were looking directly into the sun or something. Dude, what is your problem? Later that day, my roomie said he was just tripping out. So I thought nothing of it, moved on with my life. A few weeks later, we got a phone call from the twin brother we usually hung out with, and it turned out that his other twin, the creepy one, went over to his aunt's place with a knife and stabbed her 14 times. And she didn't die. What? Girl, how did you survive that? She either Wonder Woman or this dude is just dumb and sucks at aiming. 14 tries and you couldn't even get her? Literally just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Just stomach. Do you not watch crime documentaries? It's not hard. He had even called the police before going because he knew he was going to do it, but he couldn't stop himself from doing it because, you know, the voices. The court case was widely covered in the media as this was a relatively small community where this sort of thing doesn't ever happen. I was reading one of the articles and one of the testimonies was that his twin brother was severely schizophrenic and he was hearing voices in his head. He believed to his very bones that his aunt was the devil and that he had been commanded by God to go and kill her. So who is this God that told him to go kill her? Well, as the newspaper article described, it was a guy in a group he hung out with on New Year's Day. Didn't take me long to realize he was talking about me. That's why he was worshiping him. This was 22 years ago. I know for a fact it was mental illness, but just knowing I somehow commanded him to go kill his aunt stays with me to this day. It's like, bruh, I never said, go kill your aunt. I just said, are we going home? How does that translate to murder? At least she's okay. But anyways, that was a bunch of reasons of why you should never be alone, ever, and you should probably go call your mom. See how she's doing. As always, please subscribe, turn on notifications, comment below any other creepy stories you might have, and follow me on social media. Links are down below, and I'll see you tomorrow.